You're drifting in the warm, sunlit waters of the ocean, the surface shimmering like glass, when suddenly something brushes your leg. You look down expecting a cut, but instead see a tentacle slithering away. The pain doesn't fade, it gets stronger. Within seconds, it's pulsing through your body, and your skin feels like it's melting. You thrash, desperate to escape, only to realize you've just met one of the ocean's most deceptive killers, the Portuguese man-o-war. And despite looking exactly like a jellyfish, it's not. It's not even a single animal. This floating tear is a strange, interdependent gang of tiny organisms that's evolved to sting, paralyze, and kill with ruthless precision. This man-o-war isn't just a predator, it's a living minefield, drifting with the tide, waiting for something or someone to make a fatal mistake. This neon blue balloon drifts across tropical and subtropical seas, bobbing innocently in the waves with trailing tentacles that can stretch up to 165 feet, longer than a blue whale. Its sting has been described as agony incarnate, capable of leaving welts that look like a lash from a sci-fi weapon. In rare cases, it can even stop your heart. How does a creature that doesn't even move on its own become so dangerous? How do a group of tiny, helpless organisms become a stinging bomb when fused together? And what does it actually feel like to get stung by the man-o-war? Don't try this at home. The biggest misconception about the man-o-war is that it's a jellyfish, when it's actually a siphonophore, a colony of specialized organisms called zooids, all working together like a twisted oceanic hive mind. A single man-o-war contains several hundred to over 1,000 zooids, all fused together into a single functional colony. Each zooid is genetically identical, but they are specialized. Unlike some typical colonial organisms like corals, these zooids can't survive on their own. They are completely dependent on the rest of the colony. This isn't just mutualism between animals. This is complete and utter biological fusion, where each part sacrifices its independence to serve the whole. There are 4 different types of zooids in the man-o-war, each born with only a single purpose. Unlike independent creatures, they don't make decisions, adapt, or change roles. They simply exist to serve their function. At the surface is the pneumatophore. There's actually only one of these in each man-o-war. This zooid is a gas-filled balloon that's also the foundation of the entire colony. It forms first during development, with all the other zooids growing off of it, making it the structural backbone of the man-o-war. This acts like a biological sail, where it catches wind and currents which will decide the entire colony's movement. If this thing pops, the man-o-war is finished. A boat's strike, a predator's bite, or even rough waves slamming it against the rocks could tear open its delicate float, sending the entire colony sinking below the surface. Some zooids might keep functioning for a short time, but without access to the surface, the colony can't hunt, reproduce, or stay alive. A deflated pneumatophore will leave the whole colony struggling just beneath the waves, slowly starving until the ocean breaks it apart. Hanging below, the dactylozoids form the tangled mass of venomous tentacles, some stretching over 165 feet long. These are the hunters of the man-o-war, armed with thousands of harpoon-like stingers that fire on contact. Each tentacle is lined with specialized cells called nematocysts, which are microscopic syringes primed with venom. When triggered, they explode outward in less than a microsecond, piercing flesh and injecting a potent cocktail of neurotoxins and enzymes. The venom doesn't just cause pain. It locks muscles, scrambles nerve signals, and sends the victim into a state of shock. For small fish, it's over in seconds, paralyzed, helpless, and dragged deeper into the deadly tangle. Once a victim is caught, the gastrozooids take over. These are basically the digestive system of the colony, and they secrete enzymes that break down prey on the spot, dissolving soft tissue and absorbing nutrients. The man-o-war doesn't chew or bite anything. It just liquefies whatever it catches. The last zooids are the gonozooids, which handle reproduction, ensuring the man-o-war's genetic lineage continues. Unlike jellyfish, which just release eggs and sperm randomly into the water, the man of war does it in a more controlled way. Each colony is either male or female, and the gonozooids produce only one type of reproductive cell. When large groups of men of wars drift near each other, they release their eggs or sperm at the same time, increasing the chances of fertilization. Once fertilized, the new larvae eventually grow into a new colony, starting with a single pneumatophore that all the other zooids develop from. Instead of a single creature reproducing, it's an entire colony working together to create the next generation. But for us humans, what does it actually feel like to get stung by a man of war? First, the neurotoxins in the venom scramble your nerve signals, sending pain, heat, and discomfort shooting through your body. Then, your muscles begin to tighten and seize, often leaving you unable to move freely. Your breathing becomes shallow, and as the venom tempers more with the electrical signals in your body, it'll feel like your chest is constricting and your heart starts racing wildly. The urge to thrash around only makes things worse, tangling you even more in the venomous tentacles. In some cases, the venom can lead to anaphylactic shock or even cause cardiac arrest, especially if you're stung severely or are sensitive to the toxins. Very fortunately, because of our sheer size, most fully grown adults won't actually die from a man of war sting. But despite this, I still wouldn't recommend testing what it feels like to get stung. Survivors say the pain lingers for hours and sometimes even days. Despite being one of the ocean's most dangerous creatures, the man of war isn't at the top of the food chain. There are a few predators that actually will seek out the man of war to eat, like the loggerhead sea turtle. These turtles have such thick skin around their necks and mouth that they are protected from the stingers as they chow down on the tentacles without being paralyzed by the toxins. Even some birds, like seagulls and other seabirds, will occasionally pick at the man of war, though they typically avoid the tentacles and go for the safer parts of the colony. And almost hilariously, the blanket octopus has been seen using the man of war as a weapon, ripping off tentacles and wielding them like venomous whips against its own foes. Even with this extreme danger, the man of war truly just floats, letting the ocean give it any food it eats. Fish get snared, paralyzed, and digested without a chase. Even after it dies, washed up on a beach, the tentacles can still sting for weeks. Scientists are obsessed with this venom for a reason. It's a goldmine of bioactive compounds, stuff that could lead to new painkillers, muscle relaxants, or even treatments for neurological disorders. The same toxins that ruin your beach day might one day save lives. Researchers are already studying how the venom's precision targeting of nerve channels could be harnessed. The Portuguese man of war might look like a freak of nature, but it's a survivor. It's been drifting Earth's oceans for millions of years, even before the dinosaurs. Those colonies don't just sting, they keep the food web in check, snacking on plankton and small fish that might otherwise overrun shallow waters. But they are not untouchable. Climate change is shifting ocean currents, pushing them into new territories, like crowded beaches, where stings are spiking. In 2019, a swarm shut down parts of Florida's coast, with thousands of people stung in a single week. It's a reminder that the ocean's weirdest residents aren't just curiosities, they are part of our world, whether we like it or not. So next time you're at the beach, keep an eye out for that blue float, because if you see it, you've got two choices: swim away fast or brace yourself for a pain you'll never forget. If you're looking for something else to watch, you can watch our last video about a fish that walks on land. I'll read every single suggestion you guys leave in the comments for any future videos too.